I thought I'd hop on and do a podcast. Well, I'm out here on a work trip in Jacksonville. Didn't really do a whole lot podcasting during November because I was hunting pretty hard. Took about 2 weeks off work. So I was trying to hunt almost every day. So I thought I'd get back into it and try to do it regularly. So just kind of wanted to give an update. Some lessons learned, kind of things that I was having happening. As I get back into this, I'm going to try to start having more guests. But for tonight, just going to be weird and just talk to myself here. So the last episode, I think I talked about that I killed the wrong buck, thinking that it was a big buck I was after. Came in, chasing a doe right at daybreak, head behind a tree, and I thought that I had memorized a bald spot that he had on his back from fighting, and I guess that they both had the same. But I mean, he was a decent buck. I mean, don't get me wrong. A lot of people would have taken him, especially with a bow, and I do believe that anything that you take with a bow is a trophy, even if that's a doe. I think people really don't understand how hard bow hunting is, especially for people who haven't been doing it their entire lives. But on 13 November, I was able to take a nice 11-pointer that I killed in an area on public land that doesn't allow trail cameras or anything. So how it kind of set up is I went up there in the morning. It was a morning hunt. I was on a ridge top with a creek below, and it seemed at night that they had been kind of running the creek system for travel and kind of looking for does and stuff. And what I had up on the ridge top was a cedar thicket that the does were using for bedding. So I had kind of set up on the downwind side of the cedar thicket, hoping that I'd catch one cruising. Well, this was just kind of lucky that at daybreak, the wind shifted 180 degrees of what I wanted them to be. But I figured it's the rut and anything can happen, so I just let it ride. Well, the does came up from the creek, and it just so happened that where I set up was their exact route in. So if I had set up with the downwind of bedding, my scent would have been blowing directly towards them and the buck following them. So it kind of worked out that they were walking right by me and going back in the bedding. And so really, they couldn't smell me no matter what the direction my wind was blowing, even though it was blowing into the bedding. And following them was a nice 11-pointer. He had a bunch of trash on him, so some abnormal points. Really nice buck. Gave me a shot at 30 yards, and I took it. And I've been shooting for years now, the iron wills, and this is the third time it's happened where I don't know if they're just so sharp and my bow is fast and they can't feel it, but the deer don't react at all. So I shot this deer and he bounded off a couple steps and then just stood there. And I thought, I'm going to try to get another shot, but he was standing in some brush and I wasn't able to get another shot. And I was like, did I miss this deer? And I was like, there's no way. I heard the thwack noise. And I was like, you know what? Maybe it's a liver shot, because I've had that years ago where the deer kind of react the same way. So I thought, well, I'll give them, 4 or 5 hours at least. Last thing I want to do is bump this deer and not be able to find him. So I'll wait. So I just sat around up in the tree and decided to get down, go look. And I tracked him, and I found him on a CRP field, and he was stiff as a board. I mean, he must have died minutes after I shot him. So, I mean, the deer went back to feeding and everything. It was so bizarre, and from the looks of it, I double lunged him. So, I don't know, but it was very bizarre, but I'm very thankful for that buck, and it was really nice. And ended up losing some friends in a helicopter crash and I had gotten the news the night before that day. So I'm going to get that buck mounted, and it's kind of going to be like in remembrance of them, and it'll be something nice that every time I see that buck, I can remember that time in my life, and then those guys, my friends. So it's kind of something special, you know. Also, so after that, I decided I'm going to go back up to Kentucky because I've got some really big bucks on camera, and I'm just having trouble connecting with them and finding them and actually seeing them on the hoof. So I decided to go up there, and this particular spot is pretty far in, so I was going to e-bike about half the way, which is over a mile, and then did like the last 700-yard walk up a creek. Well, I think for all the guys that want to start e-biking, and if you're older like me, I'm 41, just keep in mind, like, it's not four-wheeler. It's not that easy. So, as I was going back there, I hit a log that was underneath the leaves, and it threw me over the handlebars, and I had my bow slung around my neck. So I ended up breaking my e-bike. Not totally, just like need some repairs. And then breaking my Excel 5-pin slider sight, my landslide, in half. And then, even though Hamskea probably makes the most durable, solid rest, bent my Hamskea rest up and broke 3 of my arrows. So it was a disaster. Had to walk my bike back half mile to the car because it wouldn't run. Take it to the shop, get it fixed for 3 days, and then swing by the bow shop and spend a bunch of money that I didn't want to. I ended up having a Matthews Integrate sight that I hadn't been using back at the house, so I just threw that in, so that was nice, and I just ended up buying a new Hamskea rest. Now, what was cool about Hamskea is I emailed him, I said, hey, this happened, can you take a look at this rest, see if you can fix it for me? And the guy said, sure. So I mailed them back the rest. He said, with shipping and everything, I can fix this for about $18. So they're shipping it back to me, charging me $18, and basically going to have a brand new Hamskea rest. So that's great. I really bring this up because, kind of in my line of work, we have a saying like, 2 is 1, 1 is none. And I hear a lot of guys talk about, I'm going to get a new bow and I'm going to sell my other bow. The way bows depreciate, you're better off just saving for a couple extra months and keeping that bow. And because when I got back, I just switched to my alternate and then was able to go hunt the next day. Because I have 2 bows. I have a Phase 4 and a V3X, and I keep them kitted out almost the same way, so they feel pretty much the same. So it was no big deal to actually just switch and start hunting the next day with my backup bow. So I say that to kind of keep in mind, like, it's November. Last thing you want is something to happen to your gear or something like that, and then your bow's at the shop, something important's at the shop that you need. And now you're not hunting for the rest of November and your season's over, unless you're going to hunt late season or something like that. But why take the chance, So I thought that was cool. I emailed Excel because the site can be fixed, but it's not something I can do. So I needed them to take it, but they didn't email me back. So when season's over, I'm going to dig more into that and try to get them to do it. And then, so the next thing I've been doing is kind of getting an idea and a prep for the 2024 season already. So I do hunt late season, but I also kind of like to, I feel like I have this agreement with the deer, like, hey, I'm going to hunt you hard for 3 months, and then the game's over. And if you made it, you made it. And we'll do this again next year. And I do have some bucks up on the Kentucky Public that I'm going to continue to pursue. But as for the one lease I have, and I am going to keep one lease, I had one buck that I would say was a shooter this year. That was the buck I was after. But I've decided, even though I have him on camera, I'm going to let him walk, and I think he can become something really special next year. Now maybe the neighbors shoot him in late season. Maybe he dies in a hit by a car or something. I mean, I can't help that, but I can't help that I can't kill a giant if there's no giants there. And there's a good number of deer in the area, but there's not a good number of shooter bucks in the area. There's him that'll be a really nice deer next year. He was a shooter this year, probably about 130s. And then another couple bucks that'll be nice bucks in about 2 years. So I'm trying to use this as like a long-term lease and kind of look out into the future to kind of not hope and pray for random bucks to show up during the rut, which is difficult, especially when you're paying to hunt. But some of the things that I'm kind of thinking about doing is the big bucks that I have had, the shooters I've had this year, I run Onyx, but then I also have Hunt Stand, and I keep the Hunt Stand blank. And what I'm doing is I'm copying the grids from the cameras that I get shooter bucks on, and I'm dropping those on Hunt Stand so that I can basically remember where they were and then know to place those cameras there again next year to see if they show up. Now, when I go out there, I'm also going to mark the trees, because if I put the cameras out in August, they're going to look much different than they do right now. And that's kind of some postseason scouting I'm already planning on doing too. And I want to take either some markers out there or some reflective tape or something and mark the actual trees that I either want to set up in or set my cameras in. And I want to go ahead on the couple pieces of private that I have access to, start setting up shooting lanes for next year. So it's never too early to start prepping, is what I'm saying. And even though I'm going to hunt, I'm already thinking about prepping for next year. Now, I did see on a forum online that someone says on the docket is no cell cams on Kentucky Public is up for debate. And I mean, I know that some people don't like cell cams. I absolutely love them. I think they're great. I think you can't beat saving fuel, saving money. Probably the most important thing, saving time with your family, going to check cams. And for me, the motivation they give me of being able to see these big bucks. I might never see these bucks in my life. I mean, they get big and old for a reason. And being able to see them on camera just lets me know that something's in the area. And I think that really helps out with the age structure too, because I think a lot of these areas, I wouldn't know that anything big there exists. And I'd probably shoot the first buck that I saw. Where now I'm holding out for this big deer. So I guess what I'm saying is cell cam haters can pretty much go fuck yourselves, because I love them. So I'm going to show up at the meeting if I can. I'm going to figure this out, and I don't want Kentucky to end up like Kansas for sure. The other thing is I've started a plan. I got 2 points in Kansas, which I think it takes about 1 to draw any of the areas. So I'm pretty much guaranteed with 2. But I was talking to the wife, and she wants to tag along and stay in a big city and kind of have a Thanksgiving vacation over a week. Kind of limits the areas that I can go hunt, but it should be still a good time. And then so it kind of stresses me out, because now I'm trying to figure out what units to pick, because you have to pick 2 units that are adjoining each other. Do I want to hunt public? And there isn't a whole lot of public. A walk-in area, Pay for a lease, possibly, but leases are outrageous. And I'm only going to be there for, let's say max 10 days. Or do I want to go with an outfitter? And I think that I've ruled outfitter out. Not that I don't have any problems with people that want to go to an outfitter. It's just not my thing. And that goes back to, same thing with cell cams is like, when we talk about cell cams, is that what's really important right now? Is somebody using a camera on public? When I found 3 dead bucks, which is the antlers ripped off, that the game wardens obviously aren't doing anything about. I'm out on public, I'm finding bait piles of dudes driving their 4-wheelers on land that you can't drive 4-wheelers on. And it goes back to like the earn a buck mentality, I guess. So I still feel like if I use a cell camera, I earn that deer. I might be a mile and a half back there and have to cut it up to even get it out there. So I feel like I earn that if I get that deer. Now, I can understand if you don't have a lot of time, and the outfitter idea, one of my really good friends runs an outfitter. And it's just not for me because I want to suck a little bit, you know what I mean? I want to struggle. And I don't want someone to tell me where I'm going to go and set me up over a bait pile. And then I really have no input or control over my destiny other than just waiting for a deer that I guess this guy knows exists. But if that's your thing, then more power to you. I mean, I'm not a hater about it at all. It's your hunt. You do whatever you want. And I think more people need to just chill because it's just deer hunting. You're not going to get rich. You're not going to get famous off it. I mean, I just listened to an interview with a kid that just probably killed the new typical world record in Ohio, or the Ohio record, I guess, 230 inches or something like that. Kid went out on a piece of land that he'd never hunted before. Didn't take a flashlight, didn't have his phone, borrowed a climber, borrowed a crossbow from his buddy, just set up in a random spot and killed the Ohio record. So let's just chill out about taking this like way too seriously. Didn't use a rangefinder. I mean, basically, if this kid told you the story, you would think that he wouldn't even kill a doe, and he killed the largest deer in the state of Ohio in history. So let's just take a step back and just chill on how competitive we're making deer hunting for absolutely no reason, and just enjoy it, enjoy the process, enjoy the struggle, enjoy the chess game, and try to learn so that you can be a consistent killer every year. But yeah, like I was saying, if you want to go to an outfitter and that's your thing, then that sounds fun. If you want to, if every year you want to get some of your buddies and you go to the same outfitter and drink some beers at night and go out and see some awesome rut activity with some big bucks, and the outfitter's putting a bunch of work for you, then that's great. I mean, that sounds like a blast to me, actually. That might be something I do later in life. I mean, I've already transitioned into getting my first lease this year, just because the public land grind is getting so hard. And I actually thought the lease thing would be better than it is, and I find myself hunting public. I probably hunted in public 80% of the time this year, even though I paid for a lease. So actually, I paid for multiple leases, and I went out on one of the leases because it was the only one that produced any pictures of a shooter buck. So it's kind of a lesson learned. You're really taking a gamble on, do you even have anything that's of the caliber that you would like to shoot on that property? So I'll probably cut it off right about here, but I guess closing statements, just hunt your hunt and have some backup stuff so that you don't ruin your hunt. Still got a lot of season left. Still gun season in Tennessee. For some reason, we have a 4 bazillion year long gun season. instead of like Kentucky that has a 2-week one, which makes sense. Our gun season goes till January. But I'll probably try to get out, do some bow hunting, and go back up to Kentucky and do some bow hunting. My trail cameras have really slowed down with the bucks I've been seeing, so things are getting tough. I think by now, back to a bed to food pattern primarily. So I think if there's a hot doe in the area, obviously that's going to kind of supersede the normalcy. But I think we're back to the time of just food to bed. Now maybe there's a secondary rut, some doe fawns or something like that, but I think if you got food source this time of year, you're still in the game. If you don't have a food source, maybe it's time to start scouting for next year. But that's what's kind of tough for me is the public I hunt in Kentucky is all big woods, and then all the food sources are on private. And so it's very difficult to get anywhere near the food sources. So I don't know. I don't know if I'll see any more shooters this year, but I'm going to go out there. It's been a weird year. It's been a warm rut, especially after what a promising October we had. Even though the cold fronts didn't live up to the hype to me in October, I really would like to see those cold fronts continue throughout November, and just didn't happen. So I think lessons learned for me is especially after seeing some pictures of some deer killed, I know, by neighboring properties to the public I hunt. I think a lesson learned is, manage your expectations, because I think 90% of hunting is the land and the herd of animals you have to hunt to be able to get that caliber of animal, and not how good of a hunter you are. Because you can be the best hunter in the world, and if you're hunting some piece of shit public, your chances of killing a booner definitely are not great, and they're definitely not better than the landowner that has hundreds of acres that he goes out there for rifle season and sits on a box blind over, some corn that just got mowed down. And not that there's anything wrong with that for that guy, but his law of averages are better than yours, even though you're out there doing the damn thing. He's just got more opportunity than you. So manage your expectations of what you think is going to happen. Let's see, other lessons learned that I kind of wanted to get into. I'll save that for a whole nother episode. But, okay, it was good getting back on here. And I'll see you guys next time. I'll try to put a couple more out with the next couple weeks. See you.